There is a magic about the desert at night. Until you have seen it, stood alone in the midst of it, you cannot know what enchantment is. There is a stillness there, and a nearness of stars such as no other place on earth offers. Hello, BookTube, and welcome to my second and I guess for this year final June on the Range video. I hope you enjoyed that little montage I just made. I guess this is becoming a montage channel now. I don't know how it keeps happening, but I had that passage that I was going to read y'all from this book today, from Silver Canyon by Louis L'Amour, about the desert and the enchantment and the magic. And I thought, well, I have had so many enchanting magical experiences in the desert, I should show them that. I'll just put a couple of pictures, and then before I knew it, there's original music and there's a montage or whatever. But yeah, I hope you liked that. I had lots of great adventures because I went to school in California. And had some great mentor/peers who took me out into the wilderness, and I formed some great memories. So hopefully you enjoyed that. But today we're talking about a book that is set in none of the locations that were featured in that video, but not too far away. We're looking at a book that's set in the canyons of Utah, and that book is, of course, as I already mentioned, Silver Canyon by Louis L'Amour. Which, by the way, saw another video on our very own Corner BookTube by none other than Steve Donahue. How did that happen? I told y'all that I read this a couple days ago when I made my video about Lonesome Dove, and that, oh, maybe today I'll make a video on it, and I didn't. And then in the interim between that video and now, Steve Donahue's made his own video on it. I guess he just reads every book. So he made a great video on it. You should check it out. I'll link it below. And in Steve's video, he reads the opening passage of this as proof of Louis L'Amour's just sucker punch writing capacity to hook you. And he's right. This book really will hook you. This is my first experience with Louis L'Amour, with any of the traditional paperback westerns that were so popular once upon a time. When it used to be the foremost premier genre in the United States. Now, of course, it's not. And that is one of the things that makes this event that Michael K. Vaughan made so wonderful, is that we get to return to them. And by we, I mean, in this case, me, because I would have never read this book if it weren't for this event. And when I was book shopping, I think I have on my channel the video called A Wonderful Book Haul. I find these three books by Louis L'Amour, each were like $1 or maybe $2. And they are collector's editions of his, maybe more acclaimed works, I would guess. And I think it was J. Scott Phillips commented an amazing comment on that video. And in it, one of the things he says is that the inaugural book of the three that I got was Silver Canyon. So because of this little corner on BookTube, I not only got on my radar Louis L'Amour books, but someone in my comments recommended, which one I should start with. And it was amazing. I had an amazing reading experience with this book. I can't wait to tell you about it. The thing that I went into with this, my expectations were that it would be a fun, pulpy, in one ear, out the other book. Just pretty quick, light reading. And instead, I got one of the most transporting reading experiences I've I've had. One of the more, did I say that? One of the more transporting experiences? It was. I was reading Tale of Genji, but it was late at night, and my brain was having trouble figuring out who the secretary, captain, and consultant commander was, and who was aged into what rank, and I couldn't figure it out. I was too tired, and I said, okay, I'm just going to read a Louis L'Amour book. So I picked this up, and let me tell you, not only is this easy to read, it's impossible to put down. This story, just to give you a little overview, is set in 1882. And as I mentioned, the canyons of Utah, and it gives you a very handy-dandy map. So if you want to pause and just check out what the geography is, there you go. And this was published in 1956. And apparently, as Steve said in his video today, was a smash success. So good for Louis L'Amour. Not that he really needed them. He was already doing very well at the time. And of course, about the author, this is probably the most famous Western author in terms of, maybe Larry McMurtry actually is now, but in terms of the genre and the history of it, Louis L'Amour and Zane Grey are sort of the two foremost ones. And those two authors are, of course, the authors that are part of this event for June on the Range. And I didn't read a Zane Grey novel because I don't have one, but at least I got this one. So before I talk about Louis L'Amour, about the book, it's a classic plot, a gunslinging writer with plenty of arrogance, plenty of pluck, rides into a town, meets a beautiful woman, and wants to set his roots down to marry her. And the place that he settles down into is a very beautiful, resource-rich patch of land called the Two Bar, which is a ranch, a cattle ranch. And it has access to water, it has access to anything you could ever want. And the current proprietor of it is getting attacked by two close nearby ranches who want the land. And so our hero, whose name is Matthew Brennan, goes in to help this old man in his two-bar ranch, and then, of course, gets swept up into this whole ordeal. And what I didn't expect with this book is that it would, in essence, become a mystery novel. A mystery sort of in the same way that Lonesome Dove is so concerned with motivation, but so concerned with the mystery of people's motivations. Why was this person here? Why do I see this person's tracks here? What could this mean? You're constantly following Matthew Brennan into the canyons, going through beautiful places to figure out what the heck is happening. And it's so well done. As Steve said, there's not an ounce of fat. Not an ounce of fat in this book at all. The whole thing moves forward the entire time. Difficult to put down when it's late at night. And for me, I thought it would be like a nice respite. I've never known how to pronounce that word, so I just keep saying both of them whenever I say it. But a nice respite from the Tale of Genji late at night, and instead I couldn't go back. I just had to finish this. So the first passage I wanted to point out to y'all, just because I don't want to make this too long of a video, because my Lonesome Dove video was an hour. The first passage I wanted to point out to y'all is early on in the book, page 12, at least in my edition, in which the hero, Matthew, is unexpectedly assaulted by a large man, and essentially he crawls away to seek refuge in the canyons. And the passage that describes him entering this place of healing, because for him, of course, he's trying to find a place where he can just basically lick his wounds. It is so beautiful and serene. And Louis L'Amour uses this a couple times in this book where the hero takes a beating, sometimes more than a beating, and he has to hide and heal himself. And those passages feel so good. I've mentioned before that I've had an experience like that coming from the mountains, and I wanted to read this to you because it moved me, actually, and I didn't expect to get moved when I was reading this book, but here it is. Throughout the night, I rode into wilder and wilder country. I was like a dog hunting a hole in which to die, but I had no thought of dying, only of living and finding Morgan Park again. Morgan Park's the guy who punched him. Through the long night I rode, my skull pounding, my aching body heavy with weariness, my face swollen and shapeless. Great canyon walls towered above me, and I drank of their coolness. Then I emerged on a high plateau, where a long wind stole softly across the open levels fresh with sage and sago lilies. Vaguely I knew the land into which I rode was a lost and lonely land inhabited by few, and those few were men who did not welcome visitors. At daylight, I found myself in a long canyon where tall pines grew. There was a stream talking somewhere under the trees, and turning from the game trail I had followed, I walked my buckskin through knee-high grass and flowers and into the pines. It smelled good there, and I was glad to be alone in the wilderness, which is the source of all strength. There beside the stream I bedded down, opening my sugan and spreading it in the half-sunlight and shade, and then I picketed my horse and at last crept to my blankets and relaxed with a great sigh, and then I slept. It was mid-afternoon when my eyes opened again. There was no sound but the stream and the wind in the tall pines, a far-off, lonely sound. Downstream a beaver splashed, and in the trees a magpie chattered, fussing at a squirrel. I was alone. With small sticks I built a fire and heated water, and it was hot I bathed my face with careful hands. To the west of where I waited was a gigantic cliff, rising sheer from the grassy meadow. Trees skirted the meadow, and to the east a stream flowed along one side, where the pines gave way to sycamore and a few pin oak. For 2 days I ate, slept, and let the stream flow by. That's just so beautiful. I'll stop there. I skipped around a couple of places that were plot moments, but I just wanted to give you the location, because the feeling of riding in canyon walls on both sides, narrowing, and you drink in their coolness, and then you find tall grass, a stream, pines, and you bed down when you need to relax, and you just sleep. What a feeling. I hope all of y'all get to experience, or have experienced once in your life, a wilderness nap. There's nothing like a nap just out in the open. Feeling somehow safe, feeling as if nature is carrying you and taking care of you. Come to think of it, I when I was planning this video, I didn't think of this moment, but it just came to mind. I took maybe my best nap of all time on one of the islands, the Catalina Islands. I think it was Santa Cruz, with one of my best friends. She was there too, and she took a picture of me asleep. And I was probably, I know this sounds strange, and I promise I'm not like a daredevil or anything like that, but I was probably 10 feet from the edge of the cliff. But, I was set back in the grass, and the ocean, the cliff dropped sheer down into the ocean, and then the ocean was all around us. And the wind was blowing, and I put my blue hood over my eyes, and I slept. And I'm going to add a picture to the video now if I can find it. And picture now! And that was the picture. I hope it was there. If nothing just happened, it's because I couldn't find it. But yeah, a wilderness nap is a special thing. And this book gave me that feeling. So, now that I read a passage, I want to say what this book did for me that I didn't realize it would do. The first thing was what I just mentioned, and it gave me a sense of place. Such a powerful sense of place. And one of the reasons why that is because Louis L'Amour traveled to the locations in which his novels are set, which is such a cool thing for an author to do. I looked up interviews of Louis L'Amour because after I read it, I wanted to know, what's this guy like? And instead of finding some sort of hokey pulp guy wearing Mr. Magoo glasses, I found a really thoughtful, deliberate, intelligent man who cared deeply about his craft, which is no surprise because the books are amazing. And I don't think I need to defend Louis L'Amour on this corner of BookTube, but his perception most of the time these days, as far as I can tell, is that he's sort of your grandpa's favorite author because he wrote 1 million Western books, and it was all about churning them out and making money and selling an aesthetic. And that's just not true. This guy cared, and more than anything, he cared about authenticity. He was a man who knew what he was talking about, researched it heavily, spoke to a lot of people who lived this life, had relatives. I think his great-grandfather, was scalped and killed by Native Americans when he was fighting them. And his grandfather maybe knew stories of that. And he was well-researched. He just learned everything about it. The lingo, the realism of gunfights. For instance, he's not as concerned with the quickness of a hand in this book, and in general, as far as I can tell, as with the accuracy of the first shot. The accuracy of the first shot is everything, and that comes into play in this book. So cool to find a new author. This book was so enjoyable, and I have 2 more right in front of me. I'm feeling like I did when I found P.G. Wodehouse, which is like I found a new friend who will bring to me a world that I was unaware of. P.G. Wodehouse brings me to perhaps a world that didn't exist, but comic 1920s satire world. Maybe it's not even satire, actually. And Louis L'Amour, of course, is bringing me to the West. Lonesome Dove did too, but this is a bit of more of a fantasy West, but not so fantastical as to be unrealistic. So yeah, I thought this would be pulpy, and it was not at all. What else did this book do for me? Well, one thing that it did that was spoke to the time in which it was written is that obviously the people in this are fictional characters in a way that is deliberately fictional in a satisfying way. They're not like living Tolstoy people, but they are great people on the page, but they're very traditional, and in some ways cliched. And if you're to take it down to kind of the modern ideological perspectives, is that of course they're very gender rolled. Not that factored into my reading very much, but if that's something you care about, and that's totally if you care about it, it will pop out to you that the main guy walks into town and on page 5 walks up to the beautiful woman and says, "You better know that you're looking at the man you're about to marry." So of course it has that hokey thing going on to it. And maybe that's a flaw, maybe it's not. If it is for you, hopefully it won't deter you from giving the book a try. And certainly I hope that it would not taint your reading experience, because if you're able to look past those things, you'll find a great storyteller who loves his craft and can spin a great story. And the last thing I think I'll show y'all, I have one more passage marked out. Actually, this is not even a passage. I bookmarked it and I forgot that it wasn't a passage. It was a mark. And that mark is an old coffee stain on this book. And I just like to think that some old fella or an old lady just was reading this book, drinking their coffee, and of course it spilled down, and then it gets passed on to me. And the idea that used books can kind of come and find different people is something I want to keep in mind, because who knows what joy this book has given to someone else. But they were drinking coffee, at least I know, when they had it. I just think that's so funny. So anyways, I should cut this video off about here because, this book, as great as it was, it's not a book of great depth and substance. It's just a great story. So I'd highly recommend it. If you haven't tried Louis L'Amour, like me, for 5 days ago when I had not tried him, try him. He's great. Silver Canyon's a great book to start with. Go check out Steve's video. And the last thing I'll say is that from all of these montages I've made, or from the one at least in this video, some of those videos and pictures were taken from a trip I took into the Avawatz mountain range that a friend of mine, who will go nameless for now, because he's a mysterious man, he made a video on it, and I'll post that video or put the link in the description because it's fantastic. It's called Come Adventure With Us, and you get to watch us find open mine shafts and make jokes and just have a good time. So yeah, that's my Western Dune on the Range experience for this year. Hope y'all enjoyed. And I'm going to go back to reading Tale of Genji, which I have actually fallen in love with again after I finished this book. This is the perfect pause, and I go back to Tale of Genji with kind of freshness, and I get in my brain who the right characters are, and then I'm having a great time with it again. So it's awesome. So yeah, I'll see y'all soon. And happy Private Eye July and Jane Austen July. I'll see you there. Bye-bye, BookTube.